next because there'll be some rumors coming out in the next couple of days.
Or Miami with Dwayne Wade. Go full circle. He played with one of his brothers and Chris Paul in Houston. See if he can latch on to Miami. But that Miami gig is dressed in overalls. That's work.
That sounds like work.
So a lot of people like talking that South Beach talk. No, that ain't where they play.
Well, something tells me he won't end up in the purple and gold with LeBron either because the Lakers, they've been quietly pretty good lately. They had Tyson Chandler. They've won 3 games in a row. They beat the Kings. And last night against the Hawks, it got a little close for comfort at the end here. You see LeBron trying to take the lead, and then, it goes to the line. He'll hit 1 of 2 at least, right, Jalen? I'll miss the first one. You never miss the second one. You just make the adjustments. And then, Kyle Kuzma's working hard on the offensive rebounds on that free throw. You know why? He knows it might not go in. And then we get LeBron James dunking. Of course, they had a chance to win. And the new addition to the team, Tyson Chandler, gets the block. Jalen, big win for the Lakers. What do you think?
Shout out to Tyson Chandler, a California kid, getting a chance to play in purple and gold and be an impact player versus being in Phoenix where he was irrelevant regardless of what the stats he was putting up the last couple of seasons. And he filled the weakness that they needed. Another big besides JaVale McGee that could block shots, rebound the basketball, and be a force down low. However, when LeBron James has the ball with less than 2 minutes to go and the game's undecided, I'm following him. I've been saying this for the last 2 or 3 years. You got the best player in basketball. If you allow him
I just can't believe we've gotten here.
If you going to allow him to cross half court and put you on your heels and initiate his offense and be a playmaker and or a finisher and close your team out, that's on you. I would put him on the free throw line, distort their timing, distort their offense, and force them to now make a decision of who's going to initiate the offense. LeBron James has been
statistically, objectively pretty awful from the line and from 3 at the end of the games. We actually had LeBron James was asked about this, and here's what he had to say about his late game free throw shooting.
I'm garbage.
And when someone asked him also about his late game 3-point shooting, let's hear what he had to say.
I'm garbage.
And then someone asked him about his performance in Trainwreck. And this is what he had to say.
I'm garbage.
I'm lying on the last one. But for real, I can't believe we're at a point where the best player on the planet, the strategy is to foul him and put him on the line.
I've said this for the last 2 seasons, in particular in the postseason. And that's paying homage to him. That's paying the percentages. That's saying, I know once you cross half court, you're going to get a bucket,
or you're
going to initiate somebody a bucket. Yeah. So I'd rather you be where I can see you. At the free throw line.
It is, in a way, the ultimate compliment. It sounds disrespectful, but it's the ultimate compliment to his game. Coming up next on Jalen Jacoby, we will continue to cover every single game on Sunday in the NFL because Jalen Rose insists that we do.
Got to give the people what they want.
So they have Kawhi Leonard. The Sixers are third, based on what we just discussed. And don't dismiss the Milwaukee Bucks. They probably have the best player not only in the conference, but a front runner, gonna be one of the top players as it relates to like all NBA consideration.
Of course.
In the Greek Freak, I appreciate how Lopez has reinvented himself as a player that would post
really
up,
shoot threes.
that can now really shoot threes,
as we saw over the weekend. And quietly, no one talks about this. Malcolm Brogdon has really improved from last year.
Yes.
Malcolm Brogdon has been playing really well this year, and obviously Chris Middleton is having a little breakout year, going to be an all-star.
Absolutely. So those are the teams. Indiana's going to be in the conversation beyond that, but those are the top 4 teams in the conference.
So when I look at this, I just think, are the 76ers going to give Jimmy Butler this deal? Because I think, for now, it's not. When you see Paul George in a contract year, is he going to stay? Is Anthony Davis going to stay? What's going to happen with KD? Like, those are kind of obvious questions, but this one's a little different. It's like, are the Sixers going to want to give him 5 years, $190 million? Do you think that's a done deal?
I'm going to give you a different way to look at it. Yes is the answer to that question.
Okay.
Because of what I said to begin this conversation. They're in the same conference as the Boston Celtics, who, when you look at their roster, they're set now. When you look at their assets, they're set for the future.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to be able to continue to have what it takes to bring in other great players that they see have potential to build on what they've done. So if you're going to be in a conference with them, you got to now go after the best players. And so that's what Philly's able to do. We have Simmons, we have Embiid, we have Butler. We have 3 of the top 6 players in this conference. That makes us a legitimate contender. Now, building out the roster, supplementing your weaknesses, getting shooters. All of that type of thing is going to come with it. But you definitely pay Butler because you already paid Covington $70. You traded him. You wasn't going to give a big deal ultimately to Saric. So you save that money and you give it to Jimmy Butler. And that's what Minnesota was thinking. Now, I don't think Minnesota did good in this trade, but let me tell you this. What they were thinking was, we're not a destination spot for free agents.
No.
So I want to get a guy that's already under contract. Covington. That's a 3-and-D guy.
He's a prototypical 2018 NBA role player. Like,
No
he's
question.
exactly what you want right now in the NBA. You're not going to have 5 stars to be your starting 5. I love Covington as your 4th best player in your 5.
And he's Tibbs' kind of guy. Self-made like Jimmy Butler was, came out of the D-League. And then Saric is a big that can shoot threes and stretch the floor. You put him alongside Karl Anthony Towns. He's still on a rookie deal. I have assets as the coach. That's also the GM that can put players out there, and Minnesota's actually going to be better.
You think so?
Have you seen Minnesota play this season?
I've seen him play with Jimmy Butler.
Okay, they're going to be better without Butler. These guys are going to give you more points. They're going to give you more three-pointers, and they're going to give you the opportunity to allow Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins to flourish who they want to build a team
What
around.
did Karl Anthony Towns text Andrew Wiggins when he found out that Jimmy Butler was officially traded?
He's like, you still getting the max? I'm still getting the max? He gone? Cool.
When we come back on Jalen Jacoby, the Patriots looked very pedestrian against the Titans. That and much more from the NFL right after this.
When you don't like someone, you go at them harder. I don't care what anybody says. That whole I go at my brother harder stuff, no, that's not accurate. If Larry Brown was driving to the hole, I would file him different than Juwan Howard.
I was wrong about something. I really thought Carmelo Anthony was going to be additive for the Houston Rockets. I thought he was going to be great for them offensively and hurt them a little bit defensively. Well, there's been a lot of conflicting reports over the weekend about what exactly is happening between Carmelo and the Houston Rockets, but one thing is very clear. It's not going well, and it really doesn't look like it's going to continue. There's been a lot of reports from inside and outside the organization that they will no longer be playing together. Carmelo Anthony has played his last game as a Houston Rocket. I have so many questions for you. But first, let's just listen to Chris Paul discuss it.
Melo's been great here, you know what I mean? That's like a brother to me, you know what I mean? So I don't know what's being said or whatnot, but Melo's been great, working hard every day, you know what I mean? So, man, Melo is a future Hall of Famer, you know what I mean? And that's me saying that, and that's knowing that. So, like I said, we'll see what happens.
What's going to happen next, Jalen?
So anytime you hear former players or current players broach this topic, it's really sensitive.
Explain.
This is a really sensitive
This is sensitive?
topic. Yes, because in order to become a veteran, you have to reinvent yourself, which means changing. This is why some of your favorite artists that have been in the game for a really long time have had multiple nicknames. Look at Sean Carter. Look at Sean Combs. Like, these guys have so many different nicknames because they continue to reinvent themselves.
Does Carmelo need a nickname?
Players do this exact same thing. Now, everybody ages different. He was in the same draft class as LeBron James, who's still the best player on his team, and one of the best players, if not the best player in the game.
Okay.
Dwayne Wade, who played more years in college than both of them, who's in his final season and already acknowledged that he's going to retire.
Yep.
So right now, his career could go either way, okay? When you go to OKC, he scoffed at the notion of coming off the bench.
That was a
That
year
right
ago.
there
That was a year
was
ago.
a bad sign. You go into that season, career lows in so many different categories.
Yes. They get bounced in the first round.
You get bounced in the first round, I'm not going to be here anymore. You and the team agree that just not a good look. They trade you to Atlanta. That's not going to happen. You land in Houston. The first thing we ask is what? Is he going to finally come off the bench for the first time in his career?
And anyone who's followed the NBA knows that Mike D'Antoni and Carmelo Anthony have a history.
Correct. And so when we're asking how he's going to adjust to coming off the bench, his answer was, I'm willing to do whatever it takes for the team as long as we're winning. That's the underlying part. I think a low moment happened, and I had the remote control in my hand, at Oklahoma City when he was struggling, couldn't get a field goal. The only basket that he got credit for was actually a goal tick. He was unhappy after that game, clearly, like all of us would have been, but he was more distraught because you start to now think of your journey. I was in Denver. I got out of Denver. I went to New York. Thought me and Amari was going to be able to do work. I did put up numbers. I'm one of the best players in Knicks history, but I didn't get the goal accomplished. Then I go to OKC. We don't hit our mark. I ain't going to Atlanta. Not the way they look.
Well, that was never the plan. So what happens now? What team does he play for now? What's the next chapter in his journey? Because it's not over.
And so now when you end up in Houston, you're put in a position to be the scapegoat regardless. Here's why. We know they're not going to have the best record, which they had last year. We know they're not going to be better defensively. So when they take those steps back, you're one of the people that is going to get credited for that decline. So you got to be lighting it up on the offensive end. Chris Paul got suspended. That didn't help. James Harden got hurt. That didn't help. So now you're on the floor and you're not as effective as you would like to be. The coach sees it that you have a history with. So, the same coach that feels like you got him fired in New York.
Yeah, he did get him
That
fired.
holds grudges. I know. I played for Mike D'Antoni my final season. He holds grudges.
Do you think a little bit of this, not 100%, but not 0%, was Mike D'Antoni revenge?
I'm not saying that it was the plan. I'm saying this is how it plays out. They weren't going to have the best record. They weren't going to be as good defensively. The only thing Carmelo could do is come in and ball at whatever role he was given. If he's not doing that consistently, they can now look to him and be like, oh, that's what's different. We added Carmelo.
Of course.
So he's going to be the scapegoat in this situation, and now he's going to end up, in theory, playing for five teams.
Where's he going to end up?
In
Really
three seasons.
quickly, can you name a team or a couple teams?
You got to ride.
Anybody?
Hey, you got to ride the wave when you get a little bit older. Might as well see what Philly talking about.
You think Elton Brand's going to give him the veteran minimum to go out there and do what he did in Houston?
Go back to the East Coast where you're familiar. You don't have to be the best player, the second best player, the third best player. You don't have to be the best shooter.
This won't be the last
JJ
time
Redick.
that we talk about where Carmelo Anthony's going to play next, because there'll be some rumors coming out in the next couple days.
Or Miami with Dwayne Wade. Go full circle. He played with one of his brothers and Chris Paul in Houston. See if he can latch on to Miami. But that Miami gig is dressed in overall.